Brian Daly from Garden Homes, Richard Friedman, the principal in Garden Homes, and also Steve Teleporta, who is our property manager for this area.
Excellent. Keith, I think then why don't I call the meeting to order and get going? You okay?
Yeah.
All right. This is the Town of Stonington Architectural Design Review Board, and calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, November 9th, 2020. We're here to review the application ADRB 20-07, review of Planning and Zoning Commission application PZ 202, 3 SPA and CAM. The site plan and coastal area management applications for the construction of 10 additional manufactured homes with sheds in the Fair Acres Park. The applicant would like to start. We're here to listen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Attorney Mark Brantz, B-R-A-N-S-E, representing the applicant. And as I said before we went official, Richard Friedman, the principal of Garden Homes, is with us. Brian Daly, their in-house counsel, and Steve Villaporta, who is our property manager for this area. I'm going to try to share screen and see if Keith was nice enough to give us a test on this. And it's last week, and let's see if I can get it to work. Yep, there we go. Okay. This is the overall site plan that you're looking at. The Mystic River is to the west. Route 27 is on the east. There's various commercial properties along the frontage here. Days Inn is located to the north. There's the Hampton Inn to the south, and there's other commercial uses. The Whitehall Landings condominiums are sort of the southwest side of the site, but we are proposing no changes in that area. Same for Mystic River condominiums, sort of along the river up here to the north, but again, no changes proposed there. Really, the only change that I would note is that there is an existing gravel launch ramp down to the water, that if you can see my cursor following that. It was recommended to us that be paved so that to prevent erosion. That's about it. Other than that, that area is remaining as is. The area where the development is proposed to be expanded is this quarter that I'm showing here with the cursor. And the next page we have is a blow up of that area. Okay, there we go. I don't know if Michelle Lane is a town road or not, but it is one access to the property. We are showing 2 rows of arborvitae along Michelle Lane to give some privacy to the rear yards of the new units. These are the 10 new units. See 121, 120, 122, 124, 126. 131, 129, 127, 125. This is basically this development was just never finished because it became legally non-conforming at some point in the past. We are using Connecticut General Statutes 8-30G, which is the Affordable Housing Act, which exempts us from zoning, to basically complete the development. You'll see that a lot of the units here, the existing units, are single wides. All the ones that are proposed here are double wides. That really is the coming thing now. These are considered mobile manufactured homes because they are assembled in a factory and moved to the site. In fact, once located, they rarely move. The mobility is really before they get located on a lot and not so much after. Garden Homes uses these double wides in all of their parks at this point. I think, is that correct, Richard? I don't think are we still selling singles? Oh, can Richard hear me? He may be muted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all righty.
Sorry, I was muted.
All right. Okay.
We put in whatever fits, which most often is actually a single wide. But in this case, when we're developing from scratch, we're going with all double wides.
You can see that we have a typical unit landscaping with some flowering azaleas and 2 to 3 emerald green arborvitae. We do, as is the case with single family homes, because that's what they are, we use a basic level, a sort of a starter level of landscaping on each unit, and thereafter people really like to customize them themselves. They'll plant different things, and you can see this in a lot of different mobile home parks where people will plant what they like. They cannot have structures. They can't have decks, things like that, because those would require zoning approval. I forgot to mention, every unit comes with a shed, which I'm sort of identifying here with the cursor. We found that that's beneficial to provide that right up front, so people, for lawn furniture or whatever, it avoids the clutter on the site. People have a place that they can store those kinds of lawnmowers or hedge trimmers or any other types of things like that. This is just some of the details in terms of drainage and stormwater management. I don't know if this board is really interested in that. Also a detailing of the surfacing of the launch, really the route to the launch ramp, and then the ramp itself. The other, let's see if I can find my other drawing here. In terms of the units, the pictures that you're seeing here are from the Garden Homes Mobile Home Park in Oxford, Connecticut, which is now under construction. So these are new units and comparable in their spacing and in their appearance, and comparable in the landscaping to what we started with here. You'll notice that each unit has a post light there. All right, every unit comes with its own post light. You can see it in each of these photographs. It's not in this one, and the ways that these units are sited, they'll either be the short side to the road, and units with short side to the road have this front entry porch and stairs. You can see that on both of these. The other thing is they can have their long side to the road, in which case that porch feature is off to the side, and you have fronts. One of the things that Garden Homes does, and that you see in these photographs, we carry the siding to the ground. We do not use skirting. It's a more expensive approach, but it gives a nice look. It makes it look like a permanent house, which of course it is. We use something like this lattice work from air circulation where needed. There's also venting. You can see it here. You can see the vents in various locations, but we do bring that siding all the way down so that it has a finished look. Obviously not exposed piers. We wouldn't be doing that no matter what. There is the floor plan, short side, right? These are 3-bedroom units, living room, dining room, 2 baths. There is a laundry room available. You can see dryer, washer, dryer, long side to the road. Amen. Get the cursor to work here. There we go. Long side to the road, just a little bit different layout, but again, 3-bedroom. Still 2 baths. These both with tubs, and also washer dryer areas. So that is, I guess, really it for us. What the units look like, how the site lays out, and then the buffering along Michelle Lane. Richard or Steve or Brian, is there anything that I've left out that you can think of?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. 3 of the 10 units are deed restricted as affordable housing units. You do get points for the affordable units, but you also get points for the market units. Not as many, but you still get points. This is probably the easiest 830G you'll ever see. It's surrounded by commercial properties. It's already a mobile home park. All we're doing is completing the pattern that was set when it was first established. Garden Homes just acquired it recently, by the way. We did not own it during its formative years, and we're seeking to upgrade and polish it up a bit. But it really is a site without any neighbors to speak of, at least certainly not in this area. And so we think it will serve a need for starter housing or for empty nesters. And with that, I'm open to any questions from the board.
Thank you. Appreciate the information. One point of clarification from myself, and that is, I believe there was a request for a waiver on the landscape plan, but then I see that you've provided that. What's the status of that waiver?
Yeah, the request for waiver wasn't for landscaping, but for the use of a landscape architect.
Okay.
Because as I said, we provide a basic level of landscaping, and then we really want people to get the sense of ownership and customize their yards the way, just so we all customize our yards.
Understood. Thank you. I think then we can open it up to the board for questions and discussion. Would anyone like to ask the applicant any questions or?
This is Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah. Mark Ramon, yes.
Hey, Mark Brantz, how are you?
How you doing, Mark? Good to see you again.
First of all, I want to know, where the hell are you that there's light coming in your window at 6:13?
Well, that is one of those, you get to pick your backdrop, okay? So I picked this one partly because I'll never have an office like that, but also I have set up a home office in my basement. And when I say basement, I don't mean rec room, I mean basement. So you would see the plumbing pipes and bare concrete behind me, and I thought this might be slightly better.
Now I'm let down. I was hoping you were going to say Maui or something like that.
No.
I share the same office with him.
Oh, you look
I see that.
Any masks, Brick?
So, this park, the neighborhood, wherever you want to call it, but I go to True Value a lot, which I think is one of the little crowns in Mystic, the fact that there's nothing that hardware store does not have. And you go in there and if you're paying attention, you can see this property, and you're like, oh my God, look at that. And, as somebody who teaches a college level course on sustainability, housing choice is a part of a sustainable community. And so one question I have is, what is the demographic and the price point for these units, if I could ask?
Certainly, I'll turn it over to Richard, because he'll know that better than I do.
These units will almost certainly be rented. That's the high likelihood. They could be sold, but I think they'll most likely be rented. Right now, we've been replacing homes inside the existing community, which hadn't been done for a long time under the previous owner. So we've been putting in new single wides and renting them. And for a 14 by 56 single wide 2-bedroom, we're getting about 1,000. So I would expect these to rent for $1,300 or $1,400 a month. And I would expect it would be, it could be, we could get families with children, but I think the demand will probably be more from empty nesters or people on their way to an empty nest. And so, although Mark showed you 3-bedroom plans, we may, and we probably will end up putting in 2-bedroom plans inside the exact same envelope, so it wouldn't change the site plan. That's what we're finding out, is that we started with 3 bedrooms only, and we're seeing demand for 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
Would the appearance be the same, Richard? Would the exterior look the same?
Yeah, you can't tell the difference. All that changes is what's inside the 4 walls.
And what about the deed restricted units, the affordable units? What would the rents?
So, well, actually, the rents are going to be about the same.
Okay.
I would say even the market rents are going to be compliant with certainly the 80% level of 830G, and they'll probably be compliant with the 60% level as well. And if they're not, they'll be darn close. So it's essentially, even though it's deed restricted for only 30%, it's 100% affordable.
Well, either way, it answers my question in that in Andrus Duane's writings on sustainable communities, he talks about the fact that the barista who served you your Starbucks should not have taken a bus to get to your Starbucks at 5:30 in the morning. They should have walked, down the block and come from your neighborhood. And that's what's been fracturing a lot of our infrastructure of our neighborhoods, where if it's just gated community after gated community, it's just not going to work. And like I said, you go back behind, you go back into the True Value area, and you're like, oh my God, look at this neighborhood here. I never even knew it was here. And from the image that you have up on the board, these, I know what they are. I understand the architecture and I appreciate it. And these 4 images give me a better feeling than some of the structures that have just gone up on Route 1, going from Wickety-Quock to Stonington. So I think they serve a purpose. I think that they reinforce housing choice, which is one of the 10 staples of sustainable housing. Are they architectural specimens? Of course not. But they really serve a demographic. They serve a cause in Stonington, and I think that it's great where it is, and that's my opinion. So I'll pass it off to my colleagues and reserve the right to come back.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Thank you, gentlemen. First, are there any existing mobile homes in this park that are deed restricted that fall under this 830G program?
No, there are not. The existing units were not done under 830G. Only the 10 new ones.
Could any of them be converted? You say you're changing out some of those units that are and putting new ones in. Have you thought of making any of them fall under that category so that?
Well, as Mr. Friedman said, the rents are actually within the deed restricted levels anyway. But we were not contemplating adding additional deed restrictions.
I drove through the neighborhood earlier, and it looks like there's about 70 mobile home units in there. And the area that you're proposing to put these new units, I thought it was a park. And I thought, oh, that's so nice. These people have a big park next to their properties. And I bet kids play ball there and they use it for recreation purposes, maybe put out some picnic blankets, neighbors get together in the summer. And then I noticed a lot of mature trees flanking that park that I was concerned might come down if the development is put in. And I'm just wondering about the quality of life for the neighbors that are already there if this parkland is eliminated for them. Because they don't have lots of outdoor gathering space that they can where they can come together and meet.
I guess first of all, the first thing I'll say to you is if you were out there, you would have noticed that the roadway already bisects that property. So it was already laid out for units on both sides of the road, just as you see in our site plan. It's sort of a gravel road, but it's certainly there. As far as the recreational area, that is the area along the river. And I'm just going to go back to that. I mean, that is a very nice area. I mean, right now they're storing the docks on land, but it's a large area. The existing units are set back quite far from it, so you could launch a kayak there or launch a motorboat. If you had it on a trailer or something. So that really is the park area. For these residents. The area that you're describing, the area where the developments were proposed, remember, is behind several commercial uses. It's next to the Days Inn Hotel. I mean, the reason we're adding landscaping across Michelle Lane is precisely because it's a commercial use. It's not very park-like. The mature trees you're describing, I think, are also along Michelle Lane, and I don't think we need to touch those.
Okay, it'd be nice not to remove them.
Well, we want the screening ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to save whatever we can save. I mean, the homes were pulled back the homes were pulled back much further off the property line than the existing homes are, or in part for that reason.
Okay. So you're 17 feet off the property line is what you're showing. And that's
I was wondering how you chose Eagle River Homes for these modular home units, how you made the choice of that manufacturer.
Eagle River is our main supplier in our whole business. I mean, we've had very good experience with them. I mean, the exterior of the home looks pretty much the same no matter who the manufacturer is. Would you say that's accurate, Steve?
Yes, very much so.
So I was looking at under Sunshine Homes and Champion Home Builders and a few other places that do mobile homes, and sometimes the architecture just gets a little bit more interesting with, a little gable feature, or, instead of bump outs like an RV or something, the windows are cased out a little bit nicer, and it's just.
Well, the main architectural feature we're using is that on the long side to the road, there's a gable, and on the short side to the road, the resident gets more space if we don't put in a porch. Mm-hmm. But we put in a half a porch, and you can see the picture from Oxford, and we did that for aesthetic reasons, so that when you look at the homes lined up that way, that it gives it much more of a neighborhood feel when you have that half porch on there. That definitely
porch improves it immensely.
Architectural decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the porch definitely improves the building. Mm-hmm.
I'd just make a couple of comments. One of the reasons why we ask for a plan produced by a landscape architect is that we would typically get an accounting of what trees are to be removed and how they compare to what is being proposed. So it's a little hard to piece that together. And I say that if there are indeed those mature trees that will be saved, you're not benefiting from that in your argument, because those trees if they retain, will be incredibly important to give those new units some buffering and some scale. I think the argument of filling them in the context of making the expression of a neighborhood is logical, and I think from a landscape or planting standpoint that I'd like to see a little bit more reinforcing of that neighborhood feeling. I don't think your sort of token starter kit of landscape materials does anything towards unifying and creating a baseline for the neighborhood feel. I think it accentuates the individual nature of the individual structures. I think if you were at a consistent, simple palette, and I'd encourage you to look, towards native ones too, because they will require much less upkeep, and they will certainly provide a sort of a background, and then they could be supplemented in any number of ways by the residents. But I think between maintaining every existing large-scale tree that you have a chance to, and at least if we could have some understanding of which ones they were, and just simplifying the starter palette of plant materials. I think it's as good as you can do with the circumstances. And I think I agree with Mark's sort of Mr. Comeau's identification of the importance of the scale and texture. And I think creating that neighborhood feeling and strengthening it, and hopefully the existing portion of the neighborhood could have some of those same qualities, reinforcing it. But if I could have a sense of how many of those existing trees along Michelle Lane are staying, I think my questions would be answered.
I don't remember any large trees in the quadrant in this building area.
No,
Yeah, they're along
around
the
the
street.
perimeter.
That's what I thought. I remembered some. I think they're large white pines along Michelle Lane is what I'm remembering. And if we have 17 feet from the rear of the unit, that's to the property line. Some of those trees I think are over the property line. They're probably along here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, because they seem to be sort of scattered in here. But I mean, we gain nothing by removing any of those. The arborvitae is to supplement it and not to replace it.
Then I'd suggest, foregoing the arborvitae, because they're just going to struggle and sort of dwindle in the shade of those other trees, and use that resource to amp up the individual units planting.
Any suggestions for? I mean, what did you have in mind for individual units? Because we've got, I mean, each one has 3 flowering shrubs and 2 to 3 arborvitae.
I think
that's 5 shrubs.
Yeah, I think you sort of a
Just
salad.
eliminate the arborvitae. I don't think you need the arborvitae at all.
I don't, and I think you could certainly use a shrub scale texture alone, and then the residents could supplement with perennials, which would be more readily available at more places nearby. But I think if you guys established a shrub layer that was sort of consistent across the neighborhood, and if there was a gap in the mature plantings along Michelle, you might add a piece or two. But save yourself the money of putting in those arborvitaes, which if there's any kind of shade there, it's just gonna sort of limp along.
Yeah, the trees give a nice canopy and shade to the property, and the hotel across the street is really, it's that U shape, and it doesn't seem like it's right on top of the property.
No, it doesn't. You're right. There is. Well, Michelle Lane itself gives it some spacing. Oh boy, Liv's had that image. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Michelle Lane itself gives it does give us some. I'm gonna turn off the virtual background because it doesn't like that. So that's what it really looks like. You see, I told you. But that line is along the north side of the property, so I'm not sure we're going to get any shade from it of the properties, and that's good. It's a good windbreak. But I think we certainly we can take a look at exactly where those evergreens that are there now are, and supplement them where we need to, and make sure and confirm whether we are in fact needing to remove any. I mean, like my recollection was that they were pretty much a row right along the street, and I don't remember any of them sort of intruding very far into the property. As far as the shrubs, we can take another look at shrubbery for the units and just see if there's something else that might be better. And we're open to suggestions of something you think would be nicer. Getting rid of the arborvitae, I heard get rid of the arborvitae, use more shrub material. Mark, okay. Wow. Oh yeah.
That's looking into Michelle Lane.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the hotel is on the right.
On the right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we're on the left. Yep.
Yeah, I would.
Arborvitae just create a big visual barrier as well, so if people can look underneath a tree canopy and have a longer sight line, it makes it a little bit more pleasing environment.
Okay. There's a sound. Are you hearing that? I'm getting a sound interference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It seemed to stop.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah, I
what
mean-
it was.
Yeah, these trees here are definitely, you can see by the edge of pavement, and then going back to the site plan, those trees are straddling that property line, so they should not be in our way. But we should take another look at that. Oh, even better. Look at this. All right, so we might have, so that tree we might have a problem with. Because there's the street.
Mhm.
And this was
Deciduous
taken in the
trees
fall,
mixed
so
in.
yeah, so you see the evergreens, but then you see the deciduous trees here.
Yep. I see. I'd forgotten that one. I'll have to see where that falls. I'm surprised our site plan doesn't show that.
But not as many would have to be taken out as you would fear, given the initial take of it.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It looks like most of the trees are probably on your property versus the Michelle Lane right of way. And Michelle Lane, it looks like it is a town road.
Yeah, that was helpful to see that. When I go back to well, am I going to be able to find my? I was afraid this would happen. I can see the site plan. Let's try the site plan. So, we'll take a look because that one large tree may be in here. Let's try to plot where that is. We may be able to miss it.
It's going to have to go.
It will have to.
I don't see how that could possibly.
I just don't know where it is. I mean, if it's here or if it's here, they may not have to disturb it. Just depends where it actually falls.
Yeah, but if you get too close to the roots, Mark, the tree is
Dies anyway. True.
I mean, these homes sit on concrete pads and there's stone below them, and so.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Well, maybe if you have to take down the existing trees, you just go back with another oak or another, large tree that'll grow tall and have a nice canopy to.
We tend to go back in afterward and plant. Well, we don't want them to get too big because then they start to dump leaves on the homes, and they sort of overwhelm the scale. But we put in generally small fruit trees after the project is done.
Once the units are located, Richard, once the units are in, so they're not blocking you.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen Bradford pear used that way. I've seen Kwanzaa cherry used that way. Kuza dogwood, they're not too big.
Statement: we like trees, right? I mean, we're not looking to take down any trees, but if we have to, because they're in the path of a home, then we have to.
Understood. Where are you proposing additional trees, small flowering trees you had just mentioned?
Yeah, I see we don't have them on the plan, but in a case like this, we would almost certainly put them in. I don't know if we'll put them in front of every home, but we'll probably put them in front of every other home. So that would be 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 in this case.
Well, certainly adding trees to the street edge would help reinforce the sort of the structure of the neighborhood. That's the kind of detail that would be really helpful to fully understand the context here.
Can I ask, is Eagle River the only prefabricator that you're looking at? Or are there other prefabricators that you're considering?
No, it's Eagle River. This will be, yeah, these will be Eagle River homes. That's
Have
our,
you considered any other prefabricator, or is that's a foregone conclusion in this plan?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you considered other prefabricators, or is this unit is the only, or these units are the only ones that you're considering?
Yeah, these are the only ones. I mean, we have a pretty sizable business of buying homes every year. We buy, 120 or 150 homes every year. And so our manufacturing relationships are very important. And our main relationship is with Eagle River. We have a secondary relationship with Champion. We do use Champions, but we're not planning on using them here.
And well, I'm curious, why would it, if they're the same shape generally, why would it matter?
Because I'm looking at, I'm in the building business, so I know a bit about prefabrication. And so I've been utilizing timber builders in Canada for prefabricated buildings, and have seen some higher standard of construction, and just was wondering if you've considered any other prefabricator.
Yeah, so there's a big difference between a modular manufacturer and a mobile home manufacturer. So I've never heard of the company that you just cited. And so I'm assuming that that's a modular manufacturer.
I just spoke of an area of a nation that builds a lot of prefabricated buildings, but not a particular manufacturer. I have no business recommending a manufacturer to you. I just was wondering if anybody else had been considered.
Yeah, the consideration set of people who actually build mobile homes versus modular homes is much smaller. How many mobile home manufacturers would you say we have access to in the Northeast, Steve? Half a dozen?
Yes. Yeah. At the most.
At most?
Yeah.
And some of them are consolidated. Yeah, I mean, a modular home is just, they're made by many more manufacturers, and it's just a different product than these.
We've been putting Eagle River homes in community since Garden Homes took over, and we've been very happy. The community's been happy. Our local manager's been happy. They service them well. They come through very well, and I see no reason to switch.
No, I was just wondering. I was looking at a different aesthetic. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, the aesthetic is not as as some of the other ones I've seen. That's why I brought up Sunshine Homes and Champion Homes. They also do modular homes, so the design aesthetic was a little bit
We've used
nicer.
Champion, and they build like the exact same thing.
Yeah. A modular home is a BOCA code home, and these are all HUD code homes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, we have to be careful here. But, they'll build us pretty much what we ask for, and the quality's been good. I mean, of the 7 homes we have in there now, we've had no issues with with any sort of service or anything like that. I must say too that the community itself is very pleased with what Garden Homes has been doing in there as the manager. They're happy to see that there's activity going on with replacement of old homes, and that we continue to make the place a nicer place to live. So.
Chris Delaney, I had a question regarding the architecture. I noticed in the photographs that you provided there, it seems, and I think Leslie might have mentioned this too, that there's these bump outs that on a few of the walls. Is that something that serves a purpose, or is it an attempt at an aesthetic improvement? I just wanted a little clarification on that.
Steve or Richard?
Yeah, I mean the bump outs. I assume you're talking around the windows and stuff where they sort of protrude a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just for the, because, I mean, I hate to say this, but we want them to look less boxy, and that's their reputation. We want them to look a little bit more refined. So if we can break that up a little bit by adding these things, it just makes them a little nicer, we think. So that's what we've been building for.
It also creates a nice effect on the inside in the kitchen, which is so it's the kind of a bay window effect.
Okay. Yeah, I maybe it's just
You're talking to a bunch of architects here and designers.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, these are manufactured homes. There's real limits to what we can do with them.
And really, I'm not even looking to add. I'm almost wondering if it's possible to subtract. I think I think less might be more in a situation like that. It almost makes me feel, looking at it, like it's more of a, you see those trailers with those sections that expand and whatnot. It makes me feel like it's something more like that than just a traditional simple gable, low pitch gable roof. And I'd almost, would put more emphasis on the porch. The recessed porch, I think, is a much better aesthetic improvement than these little 6-inch bump outs. I don't know how much, how many options you have, as far as each individual home, and if you can even get that particular. But if it's something that's a possibility, and again, I'm open to feedback from everybody else. It's just my own opinion, but and I try not to let these meetings get too opinion driven, but in my opinion, if I had the choice between not having that and having that, I think you'd be better off with the flat wall there.
Not being an architect, but just being a former town planner, I like having some variety in the wall. I don't think we want as little as they are in fact trucked in 2 sections and stuck together. And to the extent that you get some ins from the porch and some outs from that bay window feature, I like it, but
yeah, and kind of as a business decision also, I really don't want to get rid of that because, as I said, it creates a nice effect inside the house for the resident, and that's who we're most focused on here is our residents.
All right, are there any further comments or questions for the applicants?
This is Jenny. I just wondered about the color selection and how many different exterior color combinations will there be?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. I was actually about to mention that, but I forgot. So there's the standard colors from the factory are fairly muted. I think Mark's got some of those in his picture. There's kind of a putty color. There's a beige. There's white. I think is there a gray or sort of a light green? The darker colors, which is the one at the bottom right hand corner. Those we're going to mix in some of those too. That's actually a factory option. There's dark blue there. There's a dark red. There's dark gray. So we're going to use non-uniform colors, but there's only 10 homes, so there's a limit to how many colors we can use. But it won't be gaudy. It won't be gaudy, and it won't be bland. Try and pick a happy medium.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments from the board?
No.
Keith, do we have any of the public present?
It doesn't look like it, no.
guess that would close the public portion of our meeting with the single application. I guess the board can commence with discussion and entertain motion if someone chooses to do that.
I just wanted to get a follow-up question before. Two questions. So, is a landscape architect? Are we going to get any more information on the landscape design? It seemed like there was a lot of open-ended questions there. As far as what was staying and what was being replaced, and what exactly, as far as species were going to be used. If things were replaced, I understand the concept around individual selection for each unit, but and as far as the colors, was a pretty vague description. Would we be able to be provided with a specific selection of colors?
Sure. I mean, we typically don't pick the colors until we order the homes, but if you want
I see.
a color palette now, I can do that. That's pretty.
Well, usually we do require samples and examples of colors. It seemed pretty vague, and regardless of the the style and the circumstances, I feel like we should hold each applicant to the same standard, and at least being assured of even if you had a dozen colors to pick from, seeing those colors samples in some sort of format would be helpful.
I think the reason we didn't was that we're thinking of these like single family homes, which is what they are. And I don't believe that you review color for single family homes. So that's why we didn't, that's why we didn't present that, because as Richard said, I know that the colors are picked as a unit but we can certainly provide you with the range of colors from the manufacturer. We don't want anything that's garish. We're not going to use a chartreuse ourselves. But I'm sure they don't. But we can certainly do that. Perhaps obviously it's the commission's motion and your decision, but one possibility would be for just to summarize what we have said here, which is that you would request that at least 50% of the units have a ornamental tree in the front, that the existing vegetation along Michelle Lane be preserved to the maximum extent possible, that it be supplemented where necessary, and that in lieu of perennials, that 3 additional shrubs be used for each unit, for a total of 6 shrubs per unit, 5 to 6, because we said 2 to 3 perennials, depending on whether it's short side or long side. And obviously, the long side would have more; the short side would have the fewer. That's what I think, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what we've said we would do. Yeah. And that what I think has been your request. And I don't know if I can email a statement that says that, but however you want to do it.
I would think we'd want a survey of the existing trees that are on the site, and then what you propose.
Well, I think there was only there was that one tree.
Typically, we would see a site plan with whatever vegetation exists and whatever vegetation is proposed.
Yeah,
well, that's what we've certainly brought in what's proposed.
I mean, the reasoning behind a plan like that is to take out that element of uncertainty for us. Even in your description, it sounds pretty vague. So it would be nice to see a plan with some specifics on it.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, in most cases, when I see a waiver requested, I usually expect that there's going to be certain circumstances that justify justify a waiver. And a lot of times those circumstances are just simply, there's no landscaping required, or, there's maybe all the landscaping is completely preserved. Since there is going to be a significant amount of landscaping done here, I think it's hard for this board to say that we would allow a waiver and not really have any plan. Maybe
the waiver is only of a landscape architect. I hear your request to locate what's physically there now and what's to be retained versus removed and replaced with what. But I don't think we need, I think, frankly, I don't think a landscape architect can do that. We need our surveyor to do that. Our surveyor has to tell us where those trees are now, not a landscape architect.
Right.
Even with that regard, I don't. I mean, some of those those white pines in the street Google image look big enough that they live there. They're huge, and if they're in the way, like I don't know at what point is it zoning of right, and you can take them down. If they're in the way, they come down. I don't think it's as much a matter of if they're overgrown and they're in the way, you can take them down, as much as what will you do in lieu of them. Because one thing I think we wouldn't want to lose is there's quite a nice buffer between Route 27 or whatever the road is called right there, and the development and that it's maintained to some degree.
We certainly would have no desire to remove it, because that the buffering from Route 27, from Whitehall Avenue, and from the commercial along the road is to our interest as well.
Right.
So that area is very insular. It's a little island of residential in there, and we sort of like that feeling. I'm trying to think how we should go from here. I mean, we can certainly have the surveyor plot what's there on our existing site plan, and we can return to you with a different plan. I mean, we can't build these units till June anyway. There's a sewer moratorium, so it's not like we're putting a shovel in the ground. So if you want more detail, we can get it for you.
Well, I think it's helpful to know that your timing is got a little bit of wiggle room. From sort of the comments that we've heard tonight, I think that there's a lot of things going in the direction of your application, and I think the landscape being one of the things that certainly begs more full information, and it might be something that, with the more fully developed plan, that all of these questions will be answered, and I think we'll understand what's coming and what's going, and have a clear understanding. I don't think it's too far to travel, but I think coming back would certainly allow the rest of the board to understand the landscape implications of what's being proposed.
Then we'll have our surveyor plot what's there. We'll start with that. We'll revise the individual lots per our discussions, and we'll show where the trees are going, and we'll identify a species. I don't know. There's with this group of talent. Is there a recommendation for a species we should use for a tree? I know the ones I like, but.
Well, I think the street trees, your comments about scale and the interest in flowering, there's sort of a short list of qualifying ones. I don't want to give you, one. I think once you make your color choices, you might want to make, a decision. But as far as the trees along the edges, I think just sort of matching what you have there, and where it stays, just add more of the same. I think once you get those trees plotted and understood how they impact the units, based on proximity, you might have to selectively edit out some things, and adding back something that's matching goes a long way to having it all blend together.
Bradford pears are a lovely tree, but they don't have a very long lifespan, and they maybe 50.
They're soft. Yeah, they're softwood. I mean, I like them because they are a pretty tree and they stay pretty small. But I also like the Yakuza dogwood,
Cruise
which is a nice look
Love it.
and very hardy. Of course, they're from Mongolia, and the same with the Guangzhou cherry, also extremely hardy and very salt resistant, which isn't a problem. Well, maybe it is. I guess we're not that close to the river, but I like the Guangzhou cherries too for that reason. Like I said, I tell my lawyer friends I used to have an honest job as a town planner, so I did dabble with this stuff.
Good.
And to Chris's point about the trees, you know, they in I run by the area like every day, and they're mature. And that said, you would run the risk, I think, of damage to the homes in these storms that we have, where just recently we had this windstorm come through, and running around the Mystic River, we came across four separate in one morning, four separate major downfalls of mature pine trees that had snapped off. So you've got some big boys back there that are like 80 feet tall. I would definitely identify them and try to figure out what is in the best interest of the homes to remove, and which ones can stay. For that matter, it's not just a matter of preservation for the trees as much as it is for the structures that go in there.
Good point.
Is it possible to get a manufacturer's catalog cut for the building too, for like what the specifications are for the roofing type and siding type and trims, all the exterior elements of the building?
I'm sure we can get that.
If you would submit that, I'd be very grateful for that, please.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is that you'll table this to another meeting. We'll provide you with additional information.
That's the way this is going. I'd love to get a motion on that so we can make it official.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We're going to table this application to the next meeting so we can get further information, a detailed landscape plan, and a more specifications on the manufacturer's materials and colors and what the applicant would like to choose for the different units.
And your regular meeting is, I assume, once per month. So you'll be December.
Second Monday of December.
Second Monday of December. Okay. All righty. Okay. Thank you.
Like the 14th applicant for that. Have a complete discussion on ADRB 20-7.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you in a month.
Thank you.
All right. We'll
Thank you very much.
Should we consider? You don't need us further? Okay. All righty. I just don't want to leave it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Well, the only other thing we've got here are the minutes of the last meeting.
Mhm. Someone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. If there's one.
I'll second.
Meeting minutes from 10/19/20 have been approved.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Should vote on them. Thank you all. All right.
Yeah, and that's so far. We don't have anything else for next month. It would just be this application coming back. But sometimes we never know what's in store.
So,
What's
Keith,
what's
who's making the determination on the waivers? Because I think that was one that, you know, it pretty clearly the information that was missing was something that we all needed to hear. And I think the distinction between landscape architecture waiver and landscape plan, I was unaware that there was a distinction there.
Yeah, I mean, the waiver, the way it's written up in the regulations is it's a waiver of a landscape plan by a landscape architect. So in cases like this, you know, they have their landscaping plan, but, you know, not done by an actual landscape architect.
But I think there was a fundamental misunderstanding of the content of that plan.
Yeah, I mean, once you look at it, it sort of, you know, becomes a little unclear what they're going to keep and what they're going to plant.
But can you specify when they're submitting their plans that they have to show existing conditions with the landscaping and then proposed conditions from a landscape architect of what's going to change and what's going to be added?
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, they submit this stuff and, you know, it doesn't get really reviewed for a while. So, you know, if someone submits the plan showing the landscaping, you know, until you really review the plan, you might not know that there's that shortcoming, I guess.
Well, there should always be an existing conditions plan. Anyway.
Yeah, it's virgin land. They haven't built anything there. It's not like they're tearing down a building or, you know, as far as we know, nothing has ever been constructed there. That was Harvey Lamb's, you know, landscape field when back in before 95 was built. So.
Well, in any kind of
Yeah, it doesn't look like they have the existing conditions plan.
Yeah, the existing conditions include the landscape, not just any building structures.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, any landscape, any roads, any existing sidewalks, anything within the property boundary that's going to be affected by the new development. So I think that's kind of critical to have all that information. You have to assume that when someone gets a set of plans, they don't know anything about the location, so you have to give them everything they need to know to make a more informed decision.
Yeah, it sort of has an incomplete story without it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even Mark seemed a little surprised at the Google Earth image of how big the trees were there.
Oh, gee, yeah.
And it has a really nice effect when you drive through it. When you drive
They do,
through
yeah.
it really
Right.
it has a really pretty effect. That's why I was like, whoa, a park is going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no evidence of a stone road going through the middle of it. It just looks like grassland surrounded by mature trees.
Right.
You know, I know you mentioned, Mark, the development on Route 1 towards Pawcatuck, and, you know, certainly there's a project that would have benefited greatly from the discussion about plant material.
Wow.
Or lack of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wow. Yeah. That's. I know we've talked about reaching into the multifamily aspects and having them come before the board, but that's definitely a poster child for where that would help a little bit.
But, you know, that development though, the architecture and the layout of the development isn't that bad. If they put some trees in there and some landscaping, it would improve immensely. They have steeply pitched roofs, large windows, simple architecture.
Mm-hmm.
They just have nothing but a little bit of spotty grass and some
So
It's something they
the whole
plan on.
the whole reason why those things are flat roofs is so they get them over the road. That's the only reason, right? And so,
we're talking about the Route 1 development now.
no, I understand that, but I mean, you know, believe me, when you go look at some other homes that are available to them, probably close to their price point, you could have something quite nice back there if you wanted to. You know, that's why I asked them about other builders, because I mean I went through that guy's catalog and it's butt ugly. You know.
Oh yeah, that's why Sunshine. Those two that I mentioned are so much more attractive for a mobile home, modular home. Just a little bit of changes to the facade can do
Yeah,
the difference.
I show my students photographs of post-World War II in Levittown, and it looks like the Pawcatuck project we're talking about. And then I show them recently where you almost can't, from the same vantage point, you almost can't believe it's the same photograph. But there's mature trees and people have moved in and they've done some nice things. And it just goes to show you what nice things can do when you think it out. But from plowed fields to nice things.
Even High Meadow Lane, I have a lot of clients down there, and those homes are pretty slapped together. Architecturally, they did a lot of interesting things because they're in the 700 price point. But the landscaping is phenomenal that people have done to really build that neighborhood. It looks fantastic. They've made some serious investment in their plantings for 2x4 constructed buildings with minimal insulation.
And Birchwood, the owners of Birchwood Farms, they said that they plan on adding landscaping along the street or some sort of screening there that would help somewhat.
It better not be a stockade fence. That's all I said. Just
Yeah, I think it's landscaping they're aiming for.
yeah.
All right, then. Motion to adjourn tonight?
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Let's go eat.
Enjoy your dinner. Take care.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, one and all. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Yeah.